And 9-3 is looking at graphing quadratic functions. So just a couple things to look at. Let's look at 3 different types of graphs. First of all, first we have our standard form, which is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, you can also remember that we have this set equal to 0. Y and 0 are the same thing for this case. So instead of y, you can also write 0 equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Because when we're graphing, we have an x and we have a y line, which is why we put the y there, just so you know what you're looking for. So if I have y equals x squared minus 2, and I want you to graph this, the first thing you're going to look at is your constant. Your constant is where it crosses the y line, okay? So when you have your graph, and I'm going to try and draw this as straight as I possibly can. I don't have a ruler here. That's kind of horrible. You're going to go down to -2. So here's -1, here's -2, and you're going to put a dot. So we're crossing the y line at -2. Now you look at your a. Is my a positive or is it negative? It's positive, which means my graph is going to do something like that. It's going to go up. Okay, so let's try another one. Thing like this, where it's y equals x squared minus 4x plus 4. Again, the only number we're looking at right now is our constant, which is right here. That tells us where it's going to cross the y line. So when you have your graph, we're going to go to +4 on the y line. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and put a dot. Now, is our parabola going to be happy or sad? Is it going up or down? Well, that depends on our a. Is the a positive or negative? It's positive, which means that my graph will be going up. Just like so. I'm going to give you a problem here. We have y equals 3x squared minus 6x plus 1. Our first step is to find the axis of symmetry. Your axis of symmetry is -b over 2a. Always, always, always. So let's just go ahead and substitute in our values. So I'm going to get -b, which is -6, okay, which was going to give me a +6, because a negative and negative will give me a +6, over 2 times a, which is 3. So I'm going to get 6 over 6, which also equals 1. So this tells me my axis of symmetry is 1, which also tells me that my x equals 1. This will come back into play, so just a little reminder. Okay, step 2, we're going to find the vertex. So the first step was axis of symmetry. Second step is vertex. All right, for the vertex, we're going to go ahead and write it out. We have 3x squared minus 6x plus 1. All right, since the x-coordinate of the vertex is 1, we're going to substitute in this 1 for all the x's that we have, which is going to look like this. We're going to have 3 times 1 squared minus 6 times 1. And since this one doesn't have an x, it just becomes plus 1. All I did was take this answer and plug it in for these x's to find the vertex. Now let's go ahead and simplify this down. So we're going to get 3 minus 6 plus 1, which is going to equal -2, which tells me my vertex starts at 1 and is at 1, -2. Those two answers put together. All right, the next step is going to be to find the Y-intercept. So now we're going to find the Y-intercept. Make that look more like a Y there. All right, so we have y equals 3x squared minus 6x plus 1. Your y-intercept, again, is that last number. Remember how we were looking at just that last constant? That's because that's what y equals. So this is my y-intercept. No math there. So it's automatically going to be 0, 1. 0 because, again, y is also called 0. So when you go to put this all together, you need to find 2 more points. So our last step here, step 4, is to find 2 more points. I always say to find one higher and one smaller than what your x values are, but that's up to you. So we have our axis of symmetry, which we said was 1, and we're going to choose values that are less than 1 or higher than 1. So for 1, I'm going to go ahead and do x equals -1, and I'm going to go ahead and do one that's higher and do x equals 2. So I'm going to plug these values in for these x's again. So I'm going to get 3 times -1 squared minus 6 times -1 plus 1. This is going to be -1 times -1 is 1, times 3 is 3. -6 times -1 is +6. And then we just bring over the plus 1. 3 plus 6 is 9. 9 plus 1 is 10, which tells me my first point is going to be -1, 10. All right, let's go ahead and do this one now. We have 3 times 2 squared minus 6 times 2 plus 1. Let's go ahead and solve this one out. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 12. Excuse me. 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, -6 times 2 is going to give me a -12. And we're going to add the plus 1. So here we have 12, take away 12, which is 0. 0 plus 1 is just 1. So my answer here would be 2, 1. And now you have all the information you need in order to graph your parabola. So let's go. Okay, so let's just do a recap. First thing you want to do is find your axis of symmetry using this formula. That also tells you what your x value is going to equal. Plug that x value back into the problem where you see the x's, and that will give you your vertex, which is step 2. Vertex in this case was 1, -2. That's going to be your first dot on your graph, your first dot on your graph. Then you're going to find your y-intercept. The y-intercept is so easy to find because there's no math involved. It's the one that is by itself. It's your constant. And just put a 0 in front of it. So here's second dot on your graph. Then we're going to find 2 more dots by just picking numbers that are 1 less and 1 higher, or whichever works for you. And you get these 2 other points. So there's your third dot, there's your fourth dot. Once you have all 4, then you are able to go ahead and graph, and hopefully your graph looks a little better than mine. Hope this helps.